Our flooding rain event has begun and tropical potential is picking up steam. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here with you at Meteo Mundo on this Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. Coming up, we're seeing the heavy rain set in through portions of our area. We'll track that for you on this Wednesday and how this is going to play out with the flood potential across several of our areas. And then look ahead to next week and an increase in the potential for some tropical development near home. As we get started, thank you so much for liking this video. We'll get right into what's happening right now on this Wednesday. And we'll start off through portions of Hispaniola, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the Turks and the Caicos. We are seeing this huge moisture plume move into the area. We've talked about it. It's here. The rain has really set in. And now the wet conditions have begun. At this point in time, the rain is just overspreading all of these islands. There's been some good downpours. There's obviously been some lightning out of this. And again, this is going to be a multi-day event. So let's start off with what's happening in Hispaniola right now. This enhanced satellite imagery just shows you those plumes of moisture riding over the area. It's just been a very wet day from Lacay to Port-au-Prince, Puerto Plata, Santiago de los Caballeros, on over towards Santo Domingo and Punta Cana. Now, at this point in time, there's no real big flood issues through Hispaniola, and I wouldn't expect it yet. Remember, this is a multi-day event, so it's not about as much as how much we get today. It's how much we get accumulated through Friday. And so later tomorrow and Friday, as more rain comes in, that's when we could really start to see the flood issues here. But again, it's just been a really wet, sloppy day across the island. And it's been the same situation over Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands as well. Again, the rain has set in. We've had a few storms. You can see our live lightning count here at Meteo Mundo. So we've had a couple of storms, one down towards the St. Croix area at this point in time. I'm going to take off the satellite data and actually bring on the live radar out of Puerto Rico. And I can show you that here at Meteo Mundo. And it's a very clear picture of how wet it is. Now, again, the radar goes into eastern sides of the Dominican Republic. You can see what's happening across the island right now. We do have a flood advisory for the southeast side of the island. Yabacoa, they've had more than an inch of rain in some spots there. They could get another inch by the next few hours. Kind of what we call an urban and small stream advisory. It's not a big concern as of yet, but again, it's the same situation for Puerto Rico where it's not so much about the rain I'm concerned about today. It's the totals we're going to end up getting through Friday and maybe even through portions of the weekend ahead. So how much more rain piles on? And again, we have a few thunderstorms going on. Nice heavy shower over St. Croix, some lightning just off towards the west. All this is kind of moving up towards the north and east. Scattered showers for Vieques and Culebra, St. Thomas, St. John, on over towards Road Town. It's just, again, a very wet day, and more rain is going to be on the way. But that's the live look right now out of the radar site there in the southeast side of Puerto Rico. We continue to see at least some scattered showers for the northern side of the Lesser Antilles here, the Leeward Islands, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bartholomew. You can see the moisture kind of just gets into the area. It's not as persistent in Barbuda and Antigua and Montserrat, but certainly the northwest side here, close enough to the action where we've had some downpours continuing throughout this Wednesday, and there is deeper moisture moving in. So this area here is going to be in the opportune space to get more rain tonight and then throughout at least the day for tomorrow. Again, you get Guadalupe south and you start to pull into the drier air, guys, and there's just been not nearly as much rain for the remainder of the islands, if not even a drop. It's been a relatively dry forecast. We've seen a couple of showers coming out of the Guyana area trying to get up towards Trinidad. Tobago's been basically dry. Trinidad's going to have a better chance for rain than everywhere else. Then in the ABC Islands, it's actually been relatively quiet today. We've had the east wind. Again, that moisture axis is just off towards your west. Huge thunderstorms there, but certainly the opportunity, some of those could try and drift into the area. Now, Jamaica is one of the spots that has had some isolated showers and storms for today, but it hasn't been very concentrated here. Just in the last couple of frames, as we get deep into this Wednesday afternoon, a few storms over the Westmoreland area there, Savannah Lamar, Montego Bay, Negril. But notice how it's pretty isolated in nature. decent lightning strikes, and there's been a lot of wind across the island and coastal areas to kick up the marine conditions. But when I expand this out and I switch over to the water vapor imagery, I mentioned this yesterday, the drier air beginning to come in and even wrap up on the backside of this system. So the air is beginning to dry out over Jamaica, all right? Does not look like Jamaica is going to be in that bullseye for the heavier rain. It is going to be all of the areas to the east. And we talked about it yesterday, how there's going to be that sharp cutoff, right? The sharp cutoff in the drier air west and all of the moisture trying to move east on the eastern side of that axis. All of those darker greens and even some blues. So again, you know, it's going to be much more isolated for Jamaica. I'm not concerned about any heavier rain in those areas. So because of that, again, the area is on alert for the flood potential over the next 7 days, not over the next 7 days, over the next few days, will include and really bullseyed in on these areas: Haiti and the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands. Those are my main areas of concern. And again, heavy rain likely in these spots at least through Friday, some areas even into the weekend. Portions of the Leeward Islands could still have some heavier downpours. Minor flooding is possible, certainly not out of the question. And the Turks and the Caicos, again, good downpours, but for those areas, the rain should not be as persistent. Okay. And again, right now we're okay with the amount of rain that we've seen, but we've got a few more days to go in these spots before we begin to dry out, and we'll just see how dry we're actually going to get. Speaking of dry though, again, Northwest Caribbean, the Bahamas, we are high and dry on this Wednesday afternoon. Let's take a look. I'm going to switch back over here to the broad perspective. Before we get deeper into what's happening with this, I do want to just look at the heat. Again, you know, one of the things we can do here at Meteo Mundo is we have all this technology to look at what's happening here and now. So I don't want to leave anyone out when we're talking about the here and now, but we're going to get into the forecast in just a second. You are looking at your feels like temperatures on this Wednesday afternoon, and I'm just going to pause this to the latest time frame and look at these numbers across the Yucatan in Central America. This is dangerous heat, guys. You've got, again, feels like temperatures about 110 Fahrenheit. That's about 43 degrees Celsius, and it is for a big swath of the area. Incredible heat there. I wanted to highlight that. Even Georgetown there in the Cayman Islands, it's crazy. 88 degree temperature with a dew point of 81. So outrageous heat there. Obviously, it's much cooler where we've had the rain. The ABC Islands are baking because they haven't had the rain today. Curacao, feel like temperature of 105. It's not as bad through the Leeward Islands in most spots, but it's still steamy. Grenada's feels like temperature is 97. And of course, as you get into the moisture, you're just not going to see those temperatures be as nearly as bad. But Kingston, which hasn't had a lot of rain today, if any, we've only had a little bit of shower activity over Jamaica, that feels like temperature at the hour is 96 degrees. Okay, so now we're going to focus in on how this is going to play out. And then we're going to look deeper into next week. So first thing I want to do, as I get the model set up here, if you haven't hit the like button yet, please do that for me. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo and you're watching, you're getting something out of this video, you want the latest forecasts across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, hit that like button for me right now and subscribe, of course. Okay, so let's get into the evolution of this system. And again, it's going to be very persistent rain over the next several days for us here, all right? Again, let's see here. So I want to make sure that I'm on the right time here to start. Go back in time. There we go. Okay, so let's put this into motion. And again, you can just see this moisture plume beginning to move in. It is going to be the next 48 hours or so where the rain is going to be most widespread and persistent, and that's going to be over, again, Hispaniola, the Turks and the Caicos, Puerto Rico, portions of the Leeward Islands. Now that first slug of moisture, the deepest, richest moisture, moves north of the area as we get into later on Friday and then into Saturday and Sunday. But even over the weekend, look at this. We're still going to be pulling in moisture from South America. That's going to be riding that trough axis right up into those same areas. So a little bit broader perspective, you can see that even though the main slug of energy moves up to the north late Friday, a secondary pull of moisture could still provide some showers over this area Saturday and Sunday. It might be more scattered in nature, but there could still be some very wet conditions in some areas. And any additional rain Saturday and Sunday is just going to continue to aid in the problems as far as the flood threat goes. So for the Dominican Republic, again, scattered showers will continue at a very, let's just call it widespread through the remainder of today. I mean, these showers could break apart a little bit tomorrow, but I basically got you at 100% chance for rain for tomorrow. And then on Friday, it might be just a little bit more spotty as that moisture axis moves east. But is it completely dry? Absolutely not. And again, you can see that rain coming in here. As a matter of fact, I want to take this out one more day to get into Sunday. That's really where I wanted this to be. So I'm going to let this loop up just 1 second here to get into Sunday. And you can see even as we get into Saturday and Sunday, still the opportunity for some showers. It's not going to be as prominent, but still some potential wet weather. Now, Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, again, certainly an area where I expect there to be widespread heavy rain through Friday. And you can see that on the model. There's just a ton of green. Certainly there'll be some embedded lightning strikes. Saturday, Sunday, it is, again, a touch more spotty, but the rain will still be around. And if we get another quick inch of rain or two in a couple of spots, it's just going to lead to additional problems. So for San Juan and Christiansted and Charlotte-Amalie and Roadtown, just get prepared for some very wet conditions. Remember to check in with your local officials as well. National Weather Service there in San Juan for Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands will keep you updated on the flood threats. And of course, when I come on, I'll pass along the official information as well. Notice that we're going to have some heavy rain tonight and tomorrow for the Turks and Caicos, but this is one area that could be drying out slightly quicker. Maybe by midday Friday, they get out of the main surge of that moisture as, again, it races fairly quickly up to the north and to the east, where potentially it might be trying to spin up into some kind of subtropical system in a hurry as it moves into Bermuda. By the way, guys, the way this looks to play out, and I'm going to show you the name of the European models, is that the GFS was probably the most on as far as where the heaviest rain was going to be. Jamaica got into the drier air quickly, and now we're just looking at more spotty rain over the next few days. We're still going to envelop some rain in Jamaica, but again, are you going to be under that large plume of moisture with heavy persistent rain? No. These are going to be showers and storms developing in the afternoon hours. But again, not everyone is going to get the rain in Jamaica. For my friends in Kingston and Portmore and Spanish Town and areas off towards the west every day. It's going to be just a lot more spotty. And even into the northern Leeward Islands, again, some of this activity the next 36 hours or so could be on the heavier side, but it's not going to be persistent for Anguilla and St. Bartholomew and St. Martin and Saba, St. Eustatius, Barbuda, Antigua, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis. All of those areas will see some downpours from time to time, but more than likely, I'm not extremely concerned about there being excessive rain in that area. And again, a lot of you have chimed in and said, Rusty, we don't mind some of this rain to help cool us off. I get it. It's horrible as far as the heat and the humidity goes. Obviously, for some areas, though, the big concern is, are you going to get too much? Certainly, we're not going to get too much Dominica South, Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, all with just isolated rain chances over the next couple of days. Notice how we try and get a little bit of this moisture to move east where we see the origin, right? Over the northern side of the mainland, then trying to live north. So I do believe Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao will get into more rain as we get into tomorrow, Friday, and the weekend. You're going to have brisk east winds. These are fast-moving downpours. No real flood threat, and as hot as it's been today, I'm sure you guys wouldn't mind some of those showers. And obviously, we're begging for rain out in our northwest areas, and we're just simply not getting it. Look how hot and dry it is going to be. The Bahamas drying out from the nasty storms that they've seen, but the Cayman Islands, the Yucatan, and Central America here are going to be dry. Okay, so there's a few things to chat about here real quickly. I believe the next thing that I've got on my slides here that I want to show you is just in this area. Let's see. Yeah. So I want to bring this up because I look at everything behind the scenes. And I had to mention this, that the European model on Friday has about a 10 to 20% chance of a tropical depression developing kind of on the back end of that first surge of moisture. I don't buy it. I don't believe it's going to happen. I don't think we're going to get a closed low, but it's going to be squally weather in this area. And again, it's only a 10 to 20% chance, but I wanted to pass on the information, okay? Again, my interpretation is, and I'm kind of looking at where this area would be as we get into Friday. You don't see a lot there on the GFS, and I'm going to show you the wind profile coming up here. But again, just to pass it along, the European says, hey, you know, look, there could be some wind east of Jamaica through Hispaniola, and again, squally weather, absolutely. So rainfall totals are next. And again, this is the GFS model. It's very, very solid, I think, as far as putting where the heaviest rain is going to be. Notice, even though it doesn't have that moisture axis over Jamaica, we're still going to potentially get over 2 inches of rain in a couple of spots. Okay, so Kingston and Portmore, and Spanish Town and Port Antonio and Ocho Rios, inland, Mandeville, Maypen areas, upwards of 2 inches still possible. So again, you're not in the main moisture axis, but those are some pretty solid rainfall totals. And you can see the moisture is bringing up towards the Haitian coastline, towards Lacaille, and then it's just very widespread, 2 to 3 plus inches of rain. I do believe it's underdoing it slightly. Sometimes when you have these kinds of systems and this rain trains or develops these showers one after another, we can actually underdo it on these models. The European model is actually a little bit wetter in Hispaniola here, but it's really dried out Jamaica, and I think that's going to end up being the case. Again, up towards portions of the Turks and Caicos, a few inches of rain. How's it going to play out in Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands? Again, we're looking at the GFS model here, guys. Look, again, I think it's underdoing a lot of this, but I wanted to show you what it's bringing on, a few inches of rain. Now, look, some of this has already fallen today as well, and I just want to make sure here that I got the right time frame out here. Let me just make sure that I've got it out as far as I really want to. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're actually out 5 days basically. And again, so you can see that this would not be horrible. A few inches of rain, but again, I think it's underdoing it a little bit. This would again not cause any flood issues through the northern side of the Leeward Islands. What's interesting is it tries to pull in even more rain towards Dominique and Martinique with a surge of those southeast winds. And then eventually, later in the week, as we get more moisture coming from the south, Tobago and Trinidad get some decent showers around that area as well. So again, this is a look at the GFS model. Again, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao get back into the action. You can see that later in the week. Obviously, Aruba being farther west, closer to that moisture axis, gets the better chance for some higher rainfall totals. And then areas off towards our north and west continue to remain dry. So that's the GFS. This is the European model. I want to point this out. Take a look at Jamaica. You notice that they're in the green now. Remember the last few days they were in the red, where the GFS was actually painting on about 4 inches of rain or 100 millimeters of rain. Now it's pointing on about a ½ inch of rain. Okay, so much less rain in Jamaica from the European model. It has picked up on that drier air. It's still focused on eastern Cuba, Hispaniola, the Turks and Caicos, and you notice that that moisture axis is a little bit narrower, where it does not have Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, and especially the northern side of the Leeward Islands with the extremely heavy rainfall. Okay, so it's narrowed it down simply based on the fact that we have all of that drier air that's currently in play for us right now. And again, I think that's certainly plausible considering what we've been seeing here, that the dry air has been moving in relatively quickly across the region. Okay, back over here. I'm going to pop myself back on real quick. It looks like the NAM might not be fully loading right now, but I can tell you the NAM was not much different than the GFS. So I don't think that's going to be something to show. That's fine, no big deal. So we're going to get back over to the GFS model here and talk about next week. So let me do that. And as I'm doing that, again, if you haven't hit the like button, I appreciate it. Again, you have a specific question about the forecast, you can always drop that in the comments section below. So tell you what, this is what I want to talk about real quickly, and then we'll get into next week. I remembered that I have put all of your rain forecasts over the next 3 days in these handy charts. So let's go over that. Jamaica, 40% chance for showers the rest of today, tomorrow, just a 30% chance on Friday. Again, it's spotty at best. The Bahamas, we could fire up an isolated shower storm, but not nearly the rough weather that you've seen. Turks and Caicos, again, very wet through Thursday, trying to dry out a bit on Friday. The Dominican Republic, very wet through Thursday, still very wet on Friday, at least some scattered rain over the weekend. For the areas like the Cayman Islands, Belize City, Cancun, and Cozumel, where we desperately need some rain, no change now. But we do have a pattern change coming late next week for those areas. Stick around for that. Puerto Rico, you're just going to be wet. This is an area that I'm concerned about to start seeing some flood advisories, watches, and warnings being issued for tomorrow with the persistent rain. Potentially the same thing for the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands. Not much drier through at least Friday afternoon. Scattered downpours for Antigua and Barbuda and the rest of the northern Leeward Islands. Dominica, again, certainly the opportunity for a few scattered showers there, but again, nothing persistent or heavy enough to really cause any widespread flooding issues. Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, isolated showers, and again, downpours and breezy east winds in the ABC Islands. Okay, back over to our model here. And again, I'm going to extend this out in time because we want to talk about what's going to be happening early next week. So, going to let this loop up. You'll see this here. This is the GFS model. Might take just 1 second to get everything on here. There we go. All right. So again, a few things I want to highlight, and then we're going to take a look at the winds as well. So I'm going to pause this right about here, and we're just going to kind of rock this back and forth. So the first thing I want you to notice is that first wave of rain moving through. Could that spin up into something extratropical there near Bermuda, a subtropical system? Maybe. Again, look down here now as we get into the weekend early next week. Here comes another plume of rain, of moisture, guys. It's going to be a very active area where, again, Hispaniola and Puerto Rico, maybe Jamaica and the Virgin Islands are back into potentially more heavy rain, at least in some areas, to mid next week. But as I expand this out and I go to an area that desperately needs the rain, look at what happens towards the end of the month and then early into June. Take a look at that. Big pattern change, allowing there to be much more rain potential in this area late in May, early in June. So again, about 9, 10, 11 days out, we'll focus on this over the next week, this area, and then we pick up the Southwest Caribbean to the Northwest Caribbean. And we could be talking about the potential for some tropical development in that area. That's what it looks like as far as the rain. This is what it looks like as far as the wind. I hope that's going to come on for me here because I forgot to load it up before we got on. Should pop on. There we go. So again, here's our system near Bermuda. Wrapped up just a little bit. Nothing significant, okay? Then all of this wind energy through the Caribbean, the ABC Islands, the winds are going to be howling for you over the next 10 days. I want you to notice that it's trying to develop something in this void. Not a lot of wind in the far southwest Caribbean, but we have very persistent easterlies and southeasterlies up into the northwest Caribbean. That might try and rip apart anything that's trying to develop tropically, but it's going to take the moisture from this area and push it into places like Nicaragua and Honduras and Belize and the Yucatan and the Cayman Islands, all the areas that are very, very desperate for more rain right now. So it's good news as far as the moisture transport. And then the question is, does anything try and develop tropically? This is your vorticity product. Again, I'm looking for spin in the atmosphere. Where we have some spin, we have to keep an eye on for any development. We'll let this run one more time and we'll talk about this system coming out of here. So that's the full run. Here comes our moisture axis. There's that little bit of spin near Bermuda. You can see that. And then turn your attention down here towards the end of the month. Again, very broad spin, very broad twist, pretty progressive. And then moving up into the Northwest Caribbean, but nothing that's very prominent as of yet. But I want to show you again the European model and the chance of a tropical depression at the end of May. Remember yesterday I said it was trying to fire up all of this activity right at 10 degrees latitude. Well, take a look at this. So there is the Leeward Islands. It has potential development basically along the 10-degree axis there all the way through Central America. So east of the Leeward Islands and then basically all the way through Central America. That dot, of course, is what it's trying to spin up late this week, which again, discounted, don't expect it to happen. But you can see that there's a lot of energy developing here, and there is a tropical wave moving through, kind of the first one that we've had in the Atlantic Basin. It's still going to encounter some shear and some dust But friends, do you get the idea that things are beginning to percolate? Things are beginning to bubble up here. More energy, more tropical moisture, the winds, La Nina. It's all coming together here as we get into the very end of May and early June to see a much more active pattern. You know I'm going to be watching it for you. You can follow us through all of social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, mymeteomundo@gmail.com. You want to send me a picture or a video or any business inquiries. Again, thank you so much for liking this video. If you've been looking for your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, you found your home here at Meteo Mundo. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you have a specific question about the forecast, please feel free to drop in the comments section below. Friends, have a great remainder of your Wednesday. You know I'll keep you updated, and I'll see you tomorrow right here at Meteo Mundo.